So I want to talk a little bit about the difference between being in recovery and being fully recovered, and what that means for some people who have long-term eating disorders. And so there is a little bit of controversy in the eating disorder community about whether or not you can be fully recovered, right? And so it's a little bit difficult when you think about other addictions and what it means to be recovered. It's a little bit harder for people who have eating disorders because you don't have to be around booze, you don't have to have meth, but you do have to eat every day. So you're coming face to face with this thing. And so it makes it a little bit difficult for people to really think that there's space to be fully recovered for long periods of time. But we'll talk about each of those things independently. So someone who is in recovery is someone who is basically still at a risk of relapse, or engaging in those less than healthy behaviors moving forward, in terms of their body and their eating and things like that. And so there's space for mess ups, really. And so it's you're in process to getting to the place that you want to be getting better. And so the question all the time is how much do I have to want to recover to start recovering? And the answer is not that much. If you are even thinking about the fact that you want to recover, if this is the thought that's coming into your mind, step into it and see if it's your time and see if it's something for you. The journey with recovery is something I always tell people is just to be very patient. It tends to be a long, messy process. I've never seen it work in a complete straight line and be successful. So there are definitely, you're moving forward, you're moving backwards, you're having slip-ups, you're having relapses, and that's okay. The idea with being in recovery is that you're able to get back into where you wanted to be and start getting back on that path even after you mess up. And so I think it's really important to hear that because there's a lot of perfectionism that comes along with individuals in the eating disorder community or people that have disordered eating, and the anxiety around being perfect and what that looks like. And so you don't have to be perfect. No one expects that from you, especially in the recovery community. It's about what do you need? How can we support you and get you to where you need to be? And that is what we ultimately want from you. And so again, that journey, can take years, and maybe it doesn't. It really just depends on the person and their environment and all these other factors and how long they've had their eating disorder and all of those kinds of things. That's kind of what we're looking at when we're talking about recovery. We're talking about being fully recovered. We're talking about someone who is at very little risk, if no risk, to be relapsing whatsoever. So they are functioning day to day with no issues, no problems, no fears that they are going to step back into that behavior. And they are in a really, really good place. And again, that can be really difficult when the thing that triggers you is something that you have to come face to face with multiple times a day. And so it's a really big test of wills for people a lot of times. And sometimes it's you're making it through half the day, but not the end of the day or whatever. And so again, it's just about getting through that journey. And I think a lot of people are starting to move into the space where they're feeling fully recovered from their eating disorders, which is really amazing. But just understand, your goal doesn't have to necessarily be to be fully recovered. Maybe you're I'm just trying to be in recovery so that I can be working on myself and getting to a place that's better. Again, it's really just about what works for you, what makes you feel good, and how do you find value of yourself within yourself to be moving forward every day and stepping away from those unhealthy behaviors and really just reclaiming your life. Eating disorders are a thief of joy. We say all the time because it takes up so much of what you do. You're thinking about it, you're acting on it all the time, you're lying to people. There's just so much energy that goes into the maintenance of having an eating disorder that really you deserve to be free from. Moving through your day without thinking about your body, or moving through your day without thinking about what you're eating or what you haven't eaten or what you're going to do about, the things that you did eat. That's an amazing feeling, and everyone deserves to have that. And so understand that you don't have to get to the complete end of the road to even feel pieces of that. It comes as you work through that process. One of the things that I always like to talk a little bit about when I talk about just being in recovery and kind of that that journey is really people who have long-term or what we call lifelong eating disorders and like the geriatric population. And so these are individuals who have gone for 20, 30, 40 years in their lives with an eating disorder. And you're sure you're thinking like, whoa, that's crazy. Like that's a really long time. And the truth of the matter is that's a really long time. So you can understand how hard it would be for someone who's been doing this behavior for 20 plus years to step outside of that and find value in their life around that. That would just be like a weird concept, I think. And so it's really hard because some people really don't ever get to the point in their recovery where they feel good about the process that they're taking. And so you get some of those folks who have those lifelong eating disorders, meaning that they're in and out of treatments all the time and they just continue to relapse over and over again. And so it just becomes a chronic problem for them. And so if that's kind of in the space that you're at too, I just kind of want to say like, no matter what, you're valued. Even if you relapse, even if you're having a hard time, even if you can't quite find anything to bring you outside of your eating disorder, like even just watching this is an amazing feat for you. And so understand that again, that recovery process looks a little bit different. And even just those moments, if you're thinking like, I'm tired of this, and you don't even use the word recovery, that's an amazing step in the right direction. And so you should definitely feel good about yourself for that. And so a little bit kind of switching back over into the geriatric population is that these individuals, their eating disorder and disordered eating tends to look a little bit different as well. And so you have to think about the older we get, our bodies change and our ability to function looks a little bit different. And so you do get some of those folks that roll through with those lifelong eating disorders that just don't want to be in recovery. And they are just like, this is my life. Like, this is what feels good to me. This is who I am. And then you have some individuals who their health starts to change and it really impacts their ability to eat food or hold food down or feel satisfied or satiated by food. And so they start to step away from that space. So it's important if you're working with someone or you know someone or caring for someone that has a lifelong eating disorder or that is in that geriatric population, that you're really aware of the things that are going on. Like, are you seeing changes with their medication? Like, are you noticing they're not eating as much? Obviously, are you seeing changes in their body, their cognitive functioning, their ability to move, right? If someone's not eating as much, then you're going to see their functioning kind of start to slow down a little bit. They're not going to be as agile or mobile, especially the older that they get, and those kinds of things. And so I really just want to kind of just shine a light on this community a little bit, because I think we kind of forget that that is a thing that really can just follow you through. Again, it's kind of the cultural idea that eating disorders are for young people, specifically like young white women. And we see that, with men and women of all ages and all ethnicities. And again, just kind of wanting everyone to know that you are seen, that you are valued. Individuals that are working in this community want to provide support the best way that we can. And that doesn't necessarily mean that your goal is to be fully recovered, but you're thinking like, I'm tired of this and I just want something different. And that is the first step to deciding to step into recovery. And I think that everyone has the ability to do that.